Good evening, everyone. I am State Attorney Monique Worrell, and I am your host of Power of the Prosecutor. It is the first Monday of every single month, and it is my way of going back to where I started, going back to the community and talking to you about the things that matter. This is my community education piece so that I can explain to you about the role of the prosecutor and how the prosecutor interacts with all the other different government entities and individuals in our communities. So it is my pleasure to be back with you for June's episode of The Power of the Prosecutor. And this evening, it is my distinct pleasure to have as our guest Mayor Jerry Demings. Yay! welcome, Mayor Demings. It is such a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm always privileged to have the opportunity to speak to members of our community. As a public servant, I feel like they have uh, the uh, the goal of hearing from their elected officials more directly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mayor, let's get right into it. Many people have an idea of, what a mayor is and what a mayor does, but many people do not. A lot of people know that there are mayors. You have, been in this community for a very long time. So whether you're mayor or you're a police chief or you're sheriff, everyone knows Jerry Demings. But can you tell the community a little bit about your role in the Orange County government as the mayor?
Thank you. Here in Orange County is what's called a charter county, which means that our governance structure is one that gives a lot of the responsibility for managing our day-to-day um, local government affairs through the county administration with home rule authority. So we're one of only three counties in the state of Florida where the mayor is elected countywide. Miami-Dade has a countywide elected mayor, and so does Jacksonville, and then here in Orange. Excuse me. And the way it works here within our county is that the majority of our residents don't live in any particular city. When you think about Orange County, it's 1,000 square miles, and within that 1,000 square miles, anyway, I got something in my throat there. Within that 1,000 square miles, there are over 1.4 million people who live in Orange County. In fact, by the end of this year, Orange County will likely have about 1.5 million people. Over 800 plus thousand of those residents don't live in any city. The city of Orlando is one of the 13 municipalities within the county itself. And the city of Orlando has 315,000 people approximately that live within the corporate city limits. The next largest city is Apopka, with somewhere in the 52 to 53,000 person range. And the two smallest cities in Orange County are Lake Buena Vista and Bay Lake. Between the two of them, they have 60 people, 60. So here within Orange County, going back nearly 4 decades, Orange County residents decided, primarily those who live within the unincorporated area, they wanted one person that they could hold accountable, just like the cities. So if you live in the city of Orlando, they hire and elect their own mayor, I should say. And the mayor in Orlando runs citywide and is elected in 4-year terms. And they run in nonpartisan races. They don't choose to run as either a Democrat or a Republican. Their structure is it's a nonpartisan race. There are no term limits for the mayor in the city of Orlando. Each of its city commissioners are elected within single member districts. They do not run citywide. So in the county, as a county mayor, I run countywide inclusive of the cities. So my jurisdiction is not only for the residents of the unincorporated area of Orange County, but also within the cities. So the city residents get to vote for their county mayor and their county commissioners. We have 6 members of the Board of County Commission. Each one of them is elected in a geographical district. They do not run countywide. In some counties within the state of Florida, the county commissioners run countywide, but not here in Orange County. They run in a district. As mayor, I'm the only member of the Board of County Commission that runs countywide. We have a strong mayor form of government. As the mayor of Orange County, I am the CEO, the chief executive for the county, but I also, by charter, I am the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. So I run and manage the legislative body here within Orange County. So that's why at the Board of County Commission meetings, you see the mayor presiding over those meetings. I have one vote like each member of the Board of County Commission. The Board of County Commission sets the policy for the county and sets the budget for the county, but it is the mayor that executes the policy and manages the day-to-day budget through the assistance of a county administrator, and today who is Byron Brooks, and then all facets of county government report to me. Then there are the independently elected constitutional officers like the sheriff, the tax collector, the property appraiser, the supervisor of elections, and the comptroller. So Orange County is the only county in the state of Florida that still has an elected auditor that is elected countywide. So remember what I said, that city mayors run only within city limits. They are elected only by the people who live within those city limits. The county mayor runs countywide, inclusive of the cities. So the city residents get to vote for me. If you live in unincorporated Orange County, the unincorporated residents only get to vote for the county mayor. They cannot vote in the city elections because they don't live in the cities. So again, out of the nearly 1.4 million people or so that live in Orange County now, 800,000+ of them don't live in any city. So that's kind of the distinction that I have. And when there's a crisis or an emergency by county charter, the county mayor becomes the emergency manager for the entire county and again has countywide jurisdiction. So that's why when the pandemic occurred, you primarily saw the county mayor on point for that, in charge of those duties and responsibilities. So we do set the budgets for the most part for several of the constitutional officers like the sheriff, and that happens through a negotiated process today. And so that's a little bit about the county mayor at this point. I'll stop and maybe go to any additional questions.
Now, you mentioned during COVID-19, we heard from you, I believe, every day during your handling of COVID-19. Why did you think it was so important for you to be so involved in handling the crisis and ensuring that you communicated to your constituency where you stood on those issues?
During the early phases of the pandemic, it was a dynamic environment in terms of keeping our citizens informed, keeping them protected. It required daily communications. Some of that was done by me, but some of it was done by my communications team, and some of it was done in partnership with other community-based organizations like our hospitals, like our other divisions of government. Oftentimes with our briefings, Mayor Dyer participated in most of those briefings as well as the school district and other community partners participated in that. Many people saw Dr. Raul Pino, who at the time was working for the state. And the way it works in Florida, each county in Florida has a state health officer that is a government appointee. It's a person that works for the state of Florida, appointed by the Surgeon General or the Secretary for the Department of Health in Florida, with the affirmation of the governor. And so Dr. Pino was not an employee of Orange County government, even though he was the director for the Orange County Health Department. Many of you may know now that Dr. Pino concluded his employment with the state, and he now does work for Orange County government. We brought him on about a month ago, and he runs Orange County Health Services, not the health department, but health services. And here in Orange County, we have clinics, we have correctional health services. We run the jail. And as such, we have total responsibility for those who are incarcerated at the jail, including their health care. So there's a team of nurses, psychologists, and others who are there to make certain that those inmates receive adequate health while they're in our care and custody. And so that team of people who works within the jail, for the medical doctors and nurses, they report to Dr. Pino. And those who work within our primary care access network clinics throughout the county, they report to Dr. Pino. And then the medical director. In our county, all of the EMS personnel who are firefighter paramedics, firefighter EMTs, they take direction from the medical director here within the county. Even if they are a city fire department, they take direction from in terms of the medical protocol, they take that from the medical director, which is a county employee. And so during the pandemic, as we deliver services to the entire community, we wanted to have a unified approach. We wanted to have a collaborative approach with our municipalities and the state and even the federal government. We did things like, you may recall, we were doing testing at the Orange County Convention Center. That required a lot of coordination. We did that through our Emergency Operations Center, which is staffed by Orange County staff, but we communicated on a day-to-day basis with the other emergency operations centers within the county. And then we were giving and administering vaccine within our community and providing other resources. The county coordinated resources such as rental assistance. Many individuals were unemployed or underemployed, and they needed rental assistance. And so my job was to make sure that those were seamless processes and that people were well informed as we endeavored to keep them safe. And so that went on for months. And we went from daily phone calls with the team of people from the community partnership to 3 times a week, and then we ended up with once a week, and now we still continue to have a weekly call with all of the different community partners as we deal with issues now related to homelessness caused as a result of the pandemic, to make certain that people get access to housing and some other things.
Well, Mayor, I just want to commend you on, I think, an amazing job handling something that was unprecedented in our community, and the way that you and your team and your staff came in and kept the citizens of Orange County safe. I know that I can speak on behalf of many of us that we're very thankful for that, and also extremely thankful to still have Dr. Pino here with us in Orange County. So.
Yes, he's a great asset to the county, and we're glad to be able to get him.
Yes. So, Mayor, you mentioned earlier about, the fact that you oversee budgets. It's my understanding you have over $4 billion of budget that you oversee. Can you tell us a little bit about how you set priorities, how you determine how it's best to allocate those funds and resources to serve all of the citizens of Orange County, particularly in this time of, inflation, like we're seeing inflation, like, in an unprecedented way? How do you set those priorities, and how do you manage all of the demands and competing interests?
Well, actually, we probably need to update the website, but because our budget is now over $6 billion, and my job, again, is on behalf of the Board of County Commission and all residents of Orange County to preside as the CEO or the chief executive for county government, and the county staff, the employees, and the management and leadership team responsible for those employees all report to me. Some of the department heads, well, all of the department heads are appointed by the mayor. And then we have probably some 100 or so appointed officials who are at various levels within the county. But my job is to make certain that we are delivering quality services to our residents, and that we are managing the taxpayer dollars as they have been intended. And that means that we have accountants and other fiscal people who keep track of the dollars, but they report back up to me, and ultimately I report the outcome to the Board of County Commission from time to time. Generally speaking, at least twice a month, there's a Board of County Commission meeting. Sometimes there are 3 meetings within that month, and I preside at those meetings to make certain that the board is kept updated on a regular basis. I make many of the hiring decisions for the senior leadership within the county, and also I serve on numerous boards here on behalf of the county. I serve on the Expressway Authority, which manages and operates the toll roads here within the area. I also serve on the Links Board of Directors. I serve on the Aviation Authority Board of Directors. I also serve on Metro Plan. I chair the Tourist Development Council here within Orange County, which is the entity that sets policy and provides recommendations to the Board of County Commission concerning the expenditure of tourist development tax receipts. If you stay in our hotels within the county, you pay a tax, and we collect approximately $300 million a year from people, the tourists who come in and live in our and stay in our hotels, and those dollars are used to maintain and operate the convention center. Those dollars have been used to support the building of the Performing Arts Center. Now 2 arenas that have been used for play for the NBA. We have used dollars to expand the Camping World Stadium. And we also use tourist development dollars to promote our region. We contract with Visit Orlando, which is the promotional arm. We provide dollars to them, but we also provide dollars to different sporting events. When we have the Florida Classic, for example, the annual football game between Florida A&M University, or FAMU, and Bethune-Cookman University, we pay some dollars to those teams to come into our area. And part of that goes to the Florida Citrus Sports Foundation, and they help to manage those bowl games that come into the area. And then we use dollars to incentivize other events that come into the area, from the Honor Palmer Invitational with professional golf to the Zora Festival that was this past weekend. We provide some seed dollars to community-based organizations in arts and cultural affairs here within the county. And those are funds that are expended on behalf of the taxpayers, but the cities also benefit from that, as I have said. And so that's a little bit more about the day-to-day operations of what I get to do. And by the way, the county works, we're a decentralized operation. So, Madam State Attorney, as you know, the court, there are buildings there at the courthouse facility. Those county facilities, those buildings all belong to Orange County. We have some 497 or so buildings that our county officials work out of, and statutorily we have to provide office space and the capital to maintain computer systems and the infrastructure for the courts. And so that means that as an officer of the court, The state attorney has space within a county facility. So does the public defender, the clerk of the court. Those buildings are county assets. And so we have a team of people to help to manage the county's robust real estate and buildings around the county. The facilities that the sheriff works out of, those are all facilities owned by the county fire stations, the utilities division, the landfill. You may not think of those services, but we county services include things like environmental protection. Those are services that cities don't provide. Social services, those are services that the county provides, and the state in some regard. But the treatment of the mentally ill, the management and the funding for the Central Receiving Center and our mental health facilities that are public sector facilities. The county sets the budget for those and hires the staff, and sometimes contracts with social service providers to provide services through the facilities that we own in the county. And so the jail, and all of those buildings and that whole complex is the county's. We have enterprise funds that have restricted uses, such as Orange County Utilities. We have a water utilities division, and also the landfill falls upon the Orange County Utilities. That is where we take all of the waste, inclusive of waste collected within the cities. It ultimately ends up at the county landfill. And so there's a whole team of engineers and subject matter experts that make certain that the landfill operates as it's intended to operate. And then we have a laboratory. When you think about the drinking water that you drink, you just assume that water is safe to drink. Well, there are scientists that are managing facilities that work around the clock to make sure that we are monitoring the water. We monitor the air quality within our area. So we have sensors at various places throughout the county because we are mandated under federal statute to monitor the air quality, to make certain that our tailpipe emissions are not excessive, and to make certain that we have strategies to make sure we're taking care of our environment. We monitor the water bodies within our county as well to make certain that our lakes and rivers and other water bodies are as pristine as they could be, and we develop strategies over time to clean up some of the water bodies. And you may not ever think about that, but those are county services that are offered throughout the county. Animal services, when you have a dangerous animal within the community or what have you, and you dial 311 or you call the county animal services is a team of people who goes out and collects that dangerous animal. Sometimes if there's a dead carcass on the road or whatever, you call, it would be someone typically from the county that will go out and pick up that carcass or what have you. And so these are services that may not you may not readily think about every day. Mosquito control. When you see those trucks going around with the foggers and what have you, those are county functions that are provided even within the cities.
That is quite a bit of information, and I'm sure that everyone is feeling very informed, because these are things that we utilize every day in the county, but never think about where they come from or what governing body is over them. So thank you so much for all of that information, Mayor. Mayor, upon taking office, I had the opportunity to sit as a member of your task force on citizen safety. That was the first task force that I had an opportunity to sit on in my role as state attorney. And then and even now, I think that, gun violence is a huge concern to members of our community, not just here locally, but on a national level. Within the last 3 weeks, we've seen 3 different mass shootings happen across the country. Here in Central Florida, we've seen our own share of gun violence locally. On Thursday, I held a press conference and I announced to the community that I was going to be assigning my team to begin exploring some gun violence initiatives across the country that have proven to be successful so that we can take an active part in helping to reduce violence in our community. Sure, the role of the state attorney is limited to prosecuting gun violence or any type of violence when it comes before my desk. But as a member of this community, I feel compelled to partner with and collaborate with other agency heads and grassroots organizations to be a part of the solution instead of just sitting around and talking about the problem. As mayor, what message would you like to send to the community regarding this issue that I'm sure is top of mind for so many at this time?
Yeah, it is unfortunate that we have the level of gun violence that we're seeing across the nation. Here in the state of Florida, the state of Florida enacted laws that essentially restricted local governments from being able to regulate the purchase of firearms or the possession of firearms. All of that has been preempted by the state. In fact, they even passed legislation that would create significant fines for local elected officials or local governments who were found to be in violation of the firearms regulations within the state of Florida. So it's primarily firearms are regulated by the state and the federal government. But in terms of reducing violence, we use an approach here in Orange County that has 4 prongs. And the first prong is we try to make certain that we have programs that result in prevention. We want to stop the needless use of a firearm before it ever even occurs. And we do that by making certain that we adequately fund programs such as Head Start, summer programs, youth intervention related programs, and Orange County government today provides about $87 million in youth related programming on an annual basis. And it's designed to provide those positive spaces for children to be able to go where they have appropriate adult supervision when they're not in school or when they're not directly there in the household with their parents or guardians. And so we fund Head Start and a number of programs that occur at our community-based centers. And we work with community-based organizations that could be the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Clubs, even faith-based organizations that have after-school types of programs. We fund some of those programs so that from the early age, we want to intervene in the lives of our children to make certain that they're getting appropriate instruction. So we have prevention, intervention, enforcement, and then prosecution. And of course, you mentioned the Citizen Safety Task Force that we put in place. That was a task force that represented all disciplines from the criminal justice system, the state attorney's office, the federal prosecutor's office, local city attorneys. It had law enforcement, it had corrections, it had community-based organizations, it had citizens, it had individuals who were formerly incarcerated who served on the task force to make recommendations about how we could come together to create programs and alternatives to incarceration. And of course, sometimes when people do commit crimes, they have to be held accountable, and then there has to be some law enforcement. But in our jurisdiction and really all across America, one of the most powerful public servants, and maybe powerful is the wrong word, but maybe influential public servants that you have is the prosecutor. And the state attorney, many people aren't aware that the law enforcement can arrest you if they have probable cause, but it is the state attorney, the prosecutor, that makes a determination whether or not that case is prosecuted or not. And the prosecutor has the sole authority to make that determination. And so, as the state attorney here, many may not know that you're not only the prosecutor for Orange County, but you're the prosecutor for Osceola County. Our circuit is a 2-county circuit, and you run for election in 2 different counties. There are some counties, like Miami-Dade has a prosecutor. They only have a prosecutor for Miami-Dade County because they're so large. And then there are some counties or circuits where the prosecutor may have 3 or more counties that they're responsible for. It's based upon caseload, population, etc. And through the use of this 4-pronged approach of prevention, intervention, law enforcement, and prosecution, the goal is to make certain that we have the appropriate public safety in our communities for our residents. And so sometimes that means taking firearms out of the hands of people who should not have them in the first place. Sometimes that means ensuring that persons who are mentally ill get the treatment that they deserve to have. And I will tell you, as a state, the state of Florida ranks at the bottom of the list out of the 50 states and territories for per capita dollars that it allocates for mental health treatment. But in this county, we allocate substantial dollars for treatment. We have figured out over time that we were able to reduce the incidence of criminal behavior because of one's mental illness or one's substance abuse disorder. When we provide treatment, it reduces the incidence, it reduces the recidivism, the times that they may repeat an offense if we are able to get them treatment. So by public policy in our county, we spend a significant amount of dollars on the front end trying to make certain that people are, number one, they raised in a way and they develop in a way where they make good positive decisions, but then we look for alternatives to incarceration where appropriate by holding individuals accountable. And Madam State Attorney, you did something here within the circuit by going to the use of an adult civil citation for individuals who commit misdemeanor violations of law rather than perhaps be arrested. They go into a diversion program that allows them to be held accountable for their actions, but also doesn't unduly burden the taxpayers with the cost of a person who is incarcerated that could be out working, taking care of their family, and then the ultimate calamities that occurs there if we could get that person to go to work and stay out and take care of their families and take care of their households versus being incarcerated. There is no question that there are some people who need to be incarcerated, and we want to make certain that we have the right people incarcerated in our jail. And here within Orange County, on any given day, 80% or so of the people who are incarcerated in our jail are there on felony charges. They're not there on misdemeanor charges. Very few are there on simple possession of marijuana and those types of things. They are generally released in some fashion. And that is where the partnership between the county, the state attorney, and the other constitutional officers comes into play, where representation does matter, where we have good communications, and we're working with each other to make certain that our community is as safe as it possibly can be, and we have strategies to prevent gun violence from happening.
Mayor, I think it's so important that you mentioned that there are 4 prongs because it really emphasizes the need for collaborative efforts between the different agencies and the different organizations on how we can make our communities safer, right? So there's the prevention element, and you've gone to great lengths of explaining how, as mayor, you're able to fund some of those prevention, programs. There's the intervention element, and then of course there's the law enforcement part of things. And I'm pleased to say that we have been working collaboratively with our law enforcement partners on identifying the most dangerous individuals in our community so that we can ensure that those individuals are removed from the community so that we can be safe and we can have, stronger, safer communities. But it is so important for all of these things to work together: the prevention, the intervention, the enforcement, and the prosecution, because only working together can we provide this safe community that we all strive for. And you're right. My team has worked collaboratively with your office on creating the civil citation program, and I'm pleased to say that that's one of the initiatives that came from your task force on citizen safety. Was that if we can focus more on dangerous individuals and remove those individuals who do not pose a threat or danger to the community from the criminal legal system by allowing them to take a class and do community service and pay a fine, as opposed to suffer incarceration and all of the perils that incarceration presents, that we can then focus our resources and our efforts more on the individuals that do in fact pose a danger to our community. So I really appreciate the fact that you were able to break that down for everyone so that they could see the different prongs. And although my part is prosecution, it's important for me and that my office collaborate on all of these other parts as well, because as a community, it's vital that we work together to ensure the safety of this community. So thank you again for all of your support and collaboration in that regard, Mayor. One of the things that I talked about also was something very concerning to me personally, and I know to you in your former role as sheriff and police chief, is that within 11-day period, we had 3 shootings at law enforcement within an 11-day period. And we discussed this in the press conference. I wanted to send a very clear statement to ensure that the community understood that we take this very seriously, and that as I am asking law enforcement to use restraint in how they address the community, that we have to recognize that these men and women go out and sacrifice their lives, and they are mothers and their fathers, their husbands and wives, their brothers and sisters. And it is incumbent upon us as a community to ensure their safety as well. And I just wanted to, make it clear that as, state attorney, we will do our part to ensure that those individuals are held accountable. But I want the community to understand that they have a role, that if you know of someone who has a gun and they shouldn't have a gun, that a gun in this person's hand is a danger, right? Because we see these things. I talked about how before the mass shootings took place, there was someone who knew that this individual had a gun and that they were going to do something with it that was going to endanger the lives of so many people. And I'm calling upon the community to ensure that if you know someone who has a gun in their hands who shouldn't, that you come forward and you speak out about it, because that's the community's part in this collaborative effort in community safety. So I just want to give you a moment, to kind of speak to that.
Madam State Attorney, I applaud your efforts there. There's no question that we are living during some challenging times, and there have been recent calls for police reform, and in many ways, they're probably warranted. Police officers, law enforcement officers, they're not perfect individuals, but they should strive for perfection. And there's no perfect law enforcement agency, just like there's no perfect business either. But there's certainly room for improvement there. I can tell you that during my nearly 4 decades as a law enforcement officer, there were on 11 different occasions law enforcement officers, men and women, who worked under my direction, died in the line of duty. And so I do know that it is a risky job. And sadly, half of them died feloniously as a result of gunfire, where an assailant shot and killed the officer. And that is something that is so ever present in the minds of law enforcement officers, that it is a risky job. But through training and experience, what we try to do is hedge our bet that they're going to make the right decision uh, during a split second, where they may be asked to use force. And sometimes that force can be deadly force. And if they make mistakes, there's an issue for the courts to determine what that penalty should be. Is it criminal, or is it an accident, or what? But as the state attorney, you have that responsibility to review those police shootings. In some narrow circumstances, the United States Department of Justice gets involved if they believe that there's a pattern in practice within a law enforcement agency, through their policies and procedures or lack thereof, where they create a situation that is inappropriate and risky to the lives of our citizens. So as we move forward, I do believe that there are opportunities to, even with the reform of our gun laws, and that is a very controversial issue for our community. I just read today where a 2-year-old here in Orange County apparently got a gun somehow and shot and killed the father, I believe it was. And so when you hear about those tragedies, I also am a promoter of responsible gun ownership. I don't know all the circumstances from that particular situation, and so I can't speak about that. But what I am speaking about here is that if individuals lawfully own firearms, then they should commit themselves to making certain that they train with that firearm, that they're going to keep that firearm safe from children and others who should not have access to that firearm. And then if you find yourselves in possession of a firearm, or you know someone in possession of a firearm and they're not legally competent to have a firearm because they're mentally ill or other things, then you should make certain that you report that to the appropriate law enforcement authorities so that they can intervene early and they can take action. In this era where we see individuals who are being self-radicalized, much of that radicalization about violent extremism is happening through the internet, through various websites. And you're correct, when we see mass shooting incidents, there's always someone who knows something, who saw something about that particular individual that wasn't just right. But sometimes in our own naivety, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to go to the authorities sometimes when we see something. But I say that if you see something, we have this moral responsibility to say something. And in today's world, you can say something and you can remain anonymous, and people, law enforcement agencies, can follow up on the information that they receive. So it takes all of us. It takes the village to ensure that we are creating the kinds of communities and the kinds of environments where our children can thrive, where our young adults can thrive without having to have the threat of violence associated with it. And that takes a process, a maturation process of having appropriate adult supervision and appropriate stimuli in your lives. And sadly, sometimes in Black and brown communities, we see a disproportionate number of our children who are exposed to lawlessness, who are exposed to illicit behavior and drugs and other things. And so we all have to fight against that, to not let that become the moniker for those of us who happen to be of African American descent, or Black, or Hispanic, or any of the other ethnic, cultural ethnic groups, because just because of our heritage does not, I think, relegate us to a life of crime or anything else, because I'm here to tell you that the overwhelming majority of our children do exactly what they're supposed to do. They do not get involved in violent crime. They do not steal. They do not use drugs. They are law-abiding citizens. And so from a law enforcement perspective, what I demanded from my staff was that you treat people with dignity and respect. Do not just assume that just because they live in a certain area, they look a certain way, that they're bad people. Because most of us, again, are just trying to do the right thing. But when we have a bad person who is to steal, kill, rob other people, well, we should try to get them out of our communities and hold them accountable for their actions.
Listen, you're preaching. You're preaching, Mayor. You're preaching. You had
Yes.
a whole sermon just then.
Yeah.
So, listen, Mayor, I know that you have a busy few weeks ahead of you. You've got the Pulse Week coming, you have Juneteenth festivities and other community events. In addition to community events, how can residents stay connected with you, share their ideas or concerns with you?
We have a number of volunteer opportunities within the county. You can go to our website at ocfl.net/volunteers, and you can see the different advisory boards and groups that are available. We love to appoint individuals from our community who are of our community, who represent our community. You can also communicate with us through some of the initiatives, like we have the MLK initiative here in Orange County, which is where we have committed to making certain that as a county we embrace those nonviolent tenets that Dr. King based much of his teachings from, not just to recognize Dr. King on the day of his death when we honor him, or the day of his birth around his birthday, but we have programs year round through the Dr. Martin Luther King Initiative effort, where we go out and we're of service and we try to engage the broad demographics of our community in it. So we have men, women from different ethnic groups and religious groups who participate in that process, and they volunteer their time. Monica May from 94.5 is the current co-chair. She chairs that committee with someone from the Jewish community, and they do just a marvelous job of working on behalf of our entire community. And so I look forward to engaging with our community. I'm out in the community, try to make sure that I walk amongst the people and they have access. And our staff, we want to provide quality service to our residents, and we need your input to make certain that we're providing the type of service that you all want us to do. I do have the state of the county meeting, that a presentation that I would give on this coming Friday, June the 10th at 9 a.m. at the Orange County Convention Center. It'll be streamed through Orange TV. It will be streamed through the various social media platforms such as Facebook and some others, but there will be people live in the audience as well, where I will talk about the overall state of our county today and some of the plans for the future to make certain that we are doing the best to take care of the people here in Orange County.
That's awesome. Well, Mayor, I was going to mention the fact that you've got the state of the county coming up. Would you like to give our audience a little preview of what they should come and listen out for?
The theme of the state of the county on Friday will be investing boldly. We will be talking about the investments that we're making in our community to address housing affordability, to address transportation needs, to address social service needs within our community, to address even issues. Tomorrow we'll have a Board of County Commission meeting. We'll talk about what we're doing to perhaps address rent control and those types of things in our community. We will talk about what we're doing to address homelessness and job creation, what we're talking about to, in other words, improve the overall quality of life for our community. And the theme again would be investing boldly. So as a visionary leader, my job is to anticipate the need for the future and to take action in a timely manner and to work with our entire community in that process. So, Madam State Attorney, let me just say thank you for the opportunity to join you on the podcast. I applaud you for this opportunity to communicate directly with our citizens. And so this is something that no other state attorney here in our circuit, in our Central Florida area, has endeavored to do. So kudos to you for a job well done.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you so much for taking me up and being here tonight to educate the community. I know that your time is very valuable and you're very busy with many things to do, so I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the week.
You too.
Happy Juneteenth.
Same to you, sir. And thank you so much to all of our viewers for being here. We will be back next month, the first Monday of next month, same time, same place on Power of the Prosecutor. Look out for information on which guests we will have coming up next. And I endeavor every month to bring you information that you did not know before. I hope that today you walked away with a piece of information that you didn't have when you came. And as prosecutor, one of my roles is to help uplift and educate the community. And that's what I endeavor to do every month when I bring you Power of the Prosecutor. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Juneteenth. Stay well and be well. I look forward to seeing you next month. Good night.